Hi everyone, talking about the digestive system today. The digestive system is really just one big long tube, so we're going to separate that into parts and talk about each one. The objectives for this chapter are to discuss the functions of the digestive system, what these two words mean, alimentary and accessory, and what the difference is, the different major digestive processes, and the activities that are controlling how your body digests the food you eat. And then lastly, we'll go through the functional anatomy, so the actual structures and organs, and the chemical digestion or breakdown of the food pieces. So first of all, those two big words, alimentary and accessory organs. All of the digestive organs fall into one of those groups. The first group, the alimentary canal, is really just the long big tube. So it's the GI tract or gastrointestinal tract. So if food is passing through the organ, it's part of this first group. If the food never actually touches the organ and is just helping with the process, it's called an accessory organ. For example, the liver is an accessory organ, and we can see that on this next example. If we look top down, where food enters the mouth, down the esophagus, through this long winding pathway, all of this is the alimentary canal. The other things that you're seeing, such as the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas underneath, spleen back here, those are all accessory organs because the food never actually passes through the organs. Those are just releasing enzymes and fluids that help to digest the fluid as it goes through. So alimentary canal starts at the mouth, moves to the pharynx, down the esophagus, to the stomach, then the small and large intestine, in that order. The accessory organs are the teeth that help break up the food, the tongue that helps push the food back to swallow, gallbladder, salivary glands, liver, and pancreas. The last four are all secreting substances that help to break down the food and help your body absorb the nutrients from it. Here are some key words for the functions of the digestive system. Ingestion means putting the food into your mouth. Mechanical processing is anything that's preparing the food for the chemical digestion. So it's the breaking down. Mechanical is the tearing apart of food. So chewing, mixing, churning that happens in the stomach, and segmentation that we'll see later happens in the intestines. Digestion, if you take this definition from the textbook, it's a chemical breakdown of food. So it's actually breaking the food into their chemical parts so your body can absorb it. Secretion is the release of a fluid, and absorption is bringing molecules into the body. So it's coming from the outside, your external environment, into your body through your body tissues. Here's a good example. I'll let you look through this one on your own in the PowerPoint slides, but there's just good examples of what's happening at which part of the digestive system. When we talk about moving the food through the alimentary canal, there's two ways that it can be moved. One is called peristalsis, and the other is segmentation. So peristalsis is actually moving the food down the tube. So if you thought of putting like water into a hose and you were squeezing and pushing along the length of the hose, that's what peristalsis is. Segmentation is actually breaking it up into little bits and pieces. So if you had different substances in that hose and you were squeezing the hose to mix those two substances together, that would be segmentation. If we cut apart any part of the tube, so it could be the esophagus, the stomach, the intestines, large or small, you'll see these four layers. On the very inside, there's a mucosa. That means that it's full of mucus, right? It wants to have a nice lubricated area for that food to move through. Outside that we have the submucosa, and then even more external is the muscularis externa. This is the part, it's made of muscle, that creates that peristalsis and segmentation movement. The very outside layer is called the serosa, and again, this is just kind of a protective layer. So from the mouth down, I'll let you look through this part on your own, not too hard. I really want to focus on what's happening on the stomach down. So we have the pharynx and esophagus, another picture, and I want to start right here. So the stomach is a storage tank. Once the food gets in there, it's going to sit there for a while. This is where most of the chemical breakdown starts. Nothing is absorbed in the stomach. I want to make that clear. It's only to break down the food that you're eating. So there's a very, very acidic level of fluid in your stomach because we want to break apart all the pieces so that the tiny pieces can be absorbed later along the tract. So here's your stomach, lots of layers of muscle. On the inside, you're releasing a lot of acidic fluid so that your food can be broken apart. The next step is the small intestine. And so you'll see here's your stomach where we just came from. It's going to go right through here into this curving around small intestine. I'm going to fast forward a bit to the small intestine. Within the small intestine, we complete digestion, so that means we're completing the breakdown, and we start absorbing. And a lot of absorption happens here. There are 3 subdivisions of the small intestine, the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, and they go in that order. And you are going to see them looking something like this. Tons and tons of folds on the inside of the layers. All of these villi are for absorption. The nutrients are going to be brought into your body through those little pieces. And if we blow it up even more, you'll see that these little villi that are coming up outside of into the tract are what's helping to absorb the nutrients from your food. All right, also in this area we have the liver. There's 4 lobes to your liver. It produces bile, and that's the most important part when we're talking about the digestive system. The bile is going to help break down fat. Remember that fats are also called lipids. So this big organ, looks kind of triangular, is responsible for releasing bile. The gallbladder, which is located right underneath it, is going to store and concentrate that bile. So it hangs out there until it's needed, and then it's sent into the small intestine. So going back to this picture, we're producing bile in the liver, and then this green piece is where it's stored and concentrated before it is then secreted, as you can see through this tube, into the small intestine. Alright, one more that we have right in this area is called the pancreas. The pancreatic juice is water and enzymes, and it's helping to break down all of the food and especially electrolytes. One more time with this picture, this yellow gland is the pancreas. So all 3 of those organs, the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas, are very important to the small intestine. It takes about 3 to 6 hours for food to pass through the small intestine. During that passage, there's a lot of digestive chemicals that are delivered into the small intestine to help break down and then also to absorb. Here's a great picture that shows the difference between peristalsis and segmentation. You can see in the first one where the peristalsis is pushing down the length of the tube, and segmentation is mixing up the contents of the tube. After the small intestine, we are going to enter the large intestine. Most of the water is absorbed here, and we also create feces. So we're compacting all the leftover stuff that your body did not want. This is what the large intestine looks like. If we take the small away, you can see this one's not as wound up. It just goes up, ascending, across, transverse, and then down, descending. And this last part looks like a little S, is called the sigmoid colon, and then the rectum and anus are the last stops before that feces leaves your body. It's a very thick mucosa in the large intestine, bigger crypts and more mucus-producing cells than you'll find in the small intestine. Things that are happening here are called haustral contractions. Each big movement is forcing the food into a compactor and helping it to get to the end of that sigmoid colon so that when you have the chance to relieve yourself, it's all there ready to go. The stretch reflex of that rectal wall is going to initiate the defecation, which is going to release the feces out. So feces is stored up here. As soon as this muscle that's surrounding this exit relaxes, you're able to remove the feces from your body. All right, couple things about the chemical digestion of food, and this is along the whole tract, not specific to one. Large molecules are going to be broken down by the chemical building blocks to absorbed by the GI tract. Sorry, I stumbled over my words there quite a bit. But the basic idea here is chemical digestion is taking pieces of food, breaking them down until they're very, very, very tiny parts so that your body can absorb them through the tissues. Carbohydrates, there's 3 different kinds that your body deals with on a normal basis. Monosaccharides, they're absorbed very quickly. This is a simple sugar. Disaccharides are going to take a little bit longer. And then the polysaccharides are more like a starch or a multigrain bread, things that take your body more energy to break down. Then we have the proteins. Proteins are broken down into amino acids, and if you remember way back in the very beginning of this class, we talked about amino acids and their importance at the cellular level. So proteins are important for that. Pepsin is a hormone that's released that helps break down in the stomach. Renin, trypsin, and chymotrypsin are 3 more things that are very important. Renin especially with milk proteins. So if your body has a problem with milk or you're lactose intolerant, sometimes renin can be the reason why. Lipids are broken down by bile, as we discussed earlier, and without the liver and gallbladder, we would not be able to handle those lipids. On the other side of things, so instead of breakdown, the absorption is happening along the entire small intestine, and we also know that water is absorbed in a huge abundance in the large intestine. When things don't go well with absorption, that's called malabsorption. Sometimes it's because that you are not eating enough, and sometimes it's because you're eating enough but your body isn't able to get those nutrients out of the food, and it's not getting into the bloodstream where your body can use it. So make sure you check out, this is a little hint, some of the common and uncommon causes of malabsorption. And if you have any questions about this chapter, let me know. Chapter 17 will be left for you to go through on your own. The nutrients and the way your body processes them are not a huge portion of the final exam. So I'm going to leave that out of the video series. But if you have any questions about it, as usual, feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to help out. Thanks.